today's business world, AI is everywhere. It is the topic. It is the debate. It is what everyone is wanting to know. Here at the Leaders List today, we're going to explore some of the AI topics in a real life situation. How do we go from people who are scared and worried that AI is going to take and steal everyone's jobs to starting to play with it, to actually rolling it out in an organization and all of the things in between. So anyway, hope you enjoy this wide-ranging conversation on AI and some implementation in that journey. Welcome to the Leaders List. Well, Chris, welcome to the Leaders List. Glad to have you on. I know we've talked about this for a while. It's great to see you again.
It's great to be here, man. Great to talk to you. I'm excited.
Awesome. So I remember a meeting that we had 6-8 months ago. We sat down, we've been talking about a bunch of things, and obviously the AI conversation came up. It's been the ubiquitous conversation in almost all business lately. And I remember I was a little surprised to hear, as the AI was picking up momentum. Take me back to that conversation. Where were you coming from when we started talking about all that?
Well, I'm a marketer, right? And so probably a good 75 to 80% of a marketer's job, it tends to be writing. It felt like AI was coming from my job. If AI can write it, then why do you need to hire a proper writer? And so I was very much in that wave of AI is taking the jobs we want and not doing the jobs that we don't want, and we need to be careful about how that works and not have our skills stolen and all of those great talking points that side of the argument loves to shout.
Absolutely. And so in all of that, was your biggest fear the fact that you were going to become irrelevant because of AI? Is that really where you were coming from?
It was not just for me, though. It's like there's a whole swath of creatives that I was feeling that fear. Very much so, that we would become irrelevant or devalued.
Got it. So speaking of, I know we just kind of dove in because I love this topic. Talk to us a little bit about you. So you said marketer, obviously. Give us some background to kind of how you got into the marketing world.
So I've been doing marketing for ages, longer than I like to think about sometimes. I've been doing it for a bunch of different sectors and a bunch of different ways. I started doing marketing at a record label. Doing marketing for album releases, and then have worked at a series of agencies and in-house companies since then, doing everything from, writing to branding to PPC and paid search and all of that stuff, just the whole gamut. But like I said, there's a lot of writing.
Absolutely.
Can't go very far in marketing without being a good writer.
Agreed. Because the story is the message. And so most of this currently, and kind of where we were working together, it is in kind of the multifamily space. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah. Most recently, I was in the multifamily space, and that's for folks who maybe don't understand that is apartments primarily.
Got it. Okay. And so when we think marketing for apartments, especially how that works with AI, those don't necessarily always seem like they would go well together. And so obviously coming from a lot of fear about they're coming for your jobs and doing all this other stuff. What changed?
What changed was a conversation with you where we were discussing a philosophy of how to use AI that really opened my eyes to what it could be, rather than being a replacement. It is if we use it as a tool, if companies in particular take a philosophy and a stance of using AI as a tool to empower their people, then the thing that I care the most about in all the world is removing barriers for people to do the thing that they're really uniquely gifted at.
Right.
And that conversation opened my eyes to the idea that AI can help people be better at what they actually care about.
Sure.
And that to me is just a shift in perspective. And it changed my whole thought process on how we could do this in a way that is sustainable and helpful and actually creates a better work environment for people.
Absolutely. That human power technology, that blending those two things really is the only way forward, in my opinion. And so definitely in those conversations, that's where I was coming from on all of that. But internally, what is it that can help you overcome that idea that AI wasn't really a threat and that it really is that tool that you can use to make a difference?
It was mostly using the thing, honestly, getting my hands on the tools and starting to what it was I trained a custom GPT. That was the big thing. Sitting
Okay.
down with ChatGPT and actually training a custom GPT on my company's tone and voice. So I fed it 6 years worth of marketing copy and my tone guide. Actually, I fed it 6 years worth of marketing copy and told it to generate a tone guide and then compare it to my tone guide, which told me that I had my tone right, which was great because they matched. But it was knowing that it understood the tone, having it generate copy, and realizing that it still wasn't quite there, that it still needed a human touch. And with that in my head, I started going through other applications for an LLM. Started talking to my coders and my designers, and realizing that it's good at that initial hard lift, but it's still, in order to be truly professional quality, it needs that human touch. It has to be finished by somebody who understands what they're doing.
Yeah.
That unlocked a lot to me because I saw the potential for enabling people to be better at what they're doing and to do more. I know that we've talked about this in the past, but for me, like, the hardest thing for being in a creative is also the most exciting, is that blank page. Staring at a blank page there's so much potential there, and it's exciting, but it's also like 80% of the brain calories that you're going to burn on a creative project start with that blank page.
Right.
What AI allowed us to do was eliminate that blank page lift, as I call it. That heavy lift of the blank page goes away because you can do the easy part. You can say, here's a bulleted list of the things that I need. Use my tone of voice as a starting position. Give me 5 variations. And you generate your prompt how you want, but you end up with that blank page filled with a starting point. And then you get the person that actually knows what the heck they're doing to get in there and actually make it excellent.
So it sounds like you're saying that the Pareto principle is dead, right? That whole 80-20 rule where you spend 80% of your time getting 20% of the way through, right? And then you spend the rest of your time trying to get the rest of the way. It sounds like you're starting at probably even a 90-95% of the way through, so that all of your effort gets to go into that final cleanup and making things better, right? Is that a fair assessment?
Basically. Yeah.
Okay. So as you were getting into this, again, brand new, coming from the hater side of the AI world, were there any like aha moments early on? Was there anything that you did as you were starting to get in and play with things where you kind of went, that's pretty cool? Like, what was that, right?
So many times. A couple of things that were real game changers to me, and these are kind of little nerdy prompt things, but being able to go, hey, ask me questions if you need clarification. I think the big aha was the natural language interface with LLMs. Being able to just say a thing the way that you would say a thing. And you don't have to craft. There are a couple of things that you have to do with AI because I think it's still in its infancy. But this idea of, I can just ask it to do a thing, and then if it's not right, I can ask it to do it differently. Or I can ask it to do a thing and say, hey, if you think that there's a more compelling way to do this and you need more information for that, ask me the questions. I'll give you the information. Being able to just have a conversation with a tool is huge. I wish I could do that with my guitar amp.
Right. Absolutely.
If I could just tell it, hey, I want the tone to be, it would be really cool. Having a tool that can actually have a discourse with you is pretty impressive, especially for somebody who works with language as much as I do. I love it.
Makes sense. Okay. So it really is kind of that difference between like a Google search bar where you put it in and then you still have to do all the work, but to be able to kind of go back and almost treat it like another coworker, right? Almost like a junior coworker where you can ask it and it'll go off and do stuff and come back and you go, yeah, that wasn't quite right. Go do it again, right?
Right.
It goes back and brings something back and you continue iterating through that. Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
It sounds like a lot of work to do it that way, but it's actually still faster than the alternative. And that to me is the big thing. It allows me to generate 3 months worth of social marketing copy in a day.
Wow.
Which is normally, that was a long process. I can do it in a day now. That's huge.
So is that the biggest surprise? Was the speed and the bandwidth that it opened up for you, or were there any other surprises about kind of getting into it, how easy or difficult it might have been to play with all of it?
I think the bandwidth was the big thing for me. Having that amount of blank page lift removed from my schedule meant that I could spend all of that time refining. And I'm one of those people that we're the word choice really matters. Getting in there and tweaking. English is amazing, and it allows you to say a lot of things with a single word. So getting the right word and the right cadence in a sentence to get an emotion across exactly the way that you want it to takes time. It takes effort and it takes skill. It's something that ChatGPT is not that great at yet, but it's getting there. But having that ability to start from 80% mean that 100% of my time can be spent refining those words down to exactly what I want to say, exactly how I want to say it. Which meant that the final result was way better and happened way faster. That was a huge unlock.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So obviously you got to start playing with things. You loaded all the stuff into GPT to start playing with. Talk to me about kind of the first, I'll say production AI rollout that you started working on. What did you build? What was its purpose? Kind of where did you end up with that first real project?
That's a great question. I did two simultaneously. So the first one that I did was I created a custom GPT specifically, as we talked about, for my marketing tone of voice. It has very specific rules and a very specific tone that it has to hit. So I spent a good chunk of time training the GPT to sound as close to me as it could. The company is still using that GPT because it's really good.
Right.
But the flip side of that is that I also created a GPT to help my support staff, my customer support staff, that's tech support, and also my project managers, on how to talk to our clients in times of stress, to put it gently.
Okay.
We have specific rules about that as well. How do we talk to our clients in these moments when they're making requests that can't be fulfilled the way that they want, or they're frustrated? We had very specific rules on that. And so I trained a GPT to do that while still keeping in mind our marketing tone of voice, because they're similar, but they have different rules, right? And so I trained that with a formatting and with those rules so that our support staff could go in and say, look, here's the client, here's what they're asking for, here's what we can do, go. And I trained it so that it would be very kind and not use negatives and offer solutions. That was where I learned the ask for clarification, was with that GPT, because I said, look, ask for clarification on how we can move forward from this, or what other options we have. Don't just make stuff up. Ask me what we can do. And so we ended up with a GPT that keeps all of our tone of voice correct. It's nice and kind and friendly, and it doesn't use negatives, and it offers solutions, and it stays one of our philosophies was all support requests need to sound like they're coming from the same side of the table. Right. We're sitting on the same side of the table. We're on the same team. It has to sound like that. And so the GPT that I created allowed anybody in our team to do that, to generate those responses. And then again, we're only 80% of the way there. Nothing gets sent out untouched. So then they tweak it to be their voice, to sound like them, to say it exactly the way that they need it to, and then we can send that out. And that was it. That was another huge unlock for our team. Okay. They started using that immediately.
So how'd you operationalize that with the team? When you say started using it immediately, if the AI is not talking directly to your customers, what did that workflow look like?
Sure. So I don't know how detailed we want to get, but ChatGPT, when you create a custom GPT, allows you to it allows you to have a link to your custom GPT, but you also have an edit screen. So you can go in and you can lock down that edit screen, which I did. And it's, again, I love the natural language interface. It's as simple as saying, hey, don't let anybody change your parameters except for me. So then I control the parameters, but then I can send a link to my team, and my team doesn't have to do anything besides log in with their Google company account, and then they can use the GPT however they'd like. They can generate whatever they need. Okay. It keeps a record of them so that they can go back and find the thing that they need. They can double check prompts. I did also offer them a prompt. Here's a prompt. Here's all the information that it needs. If you use this prompt, it should be able to get you 90%. Okay. So they started using that prompt, dumping it into the GPT after they filled out the information in the prompt. And
so based on our conversations, tactically, you'd have a customer support representative who would get an angry email from a client and go, I don't really know how to respond to this well. And so they would take and copy the email and drop it into the prompt that you gave them, run that through the GPT. Then it would spit out a response that they would then review, because you want to make sure that you review it. Again,
Absolutely.
it's only 80% of the way there. Tweak anything that's small inside of that, and then they would copy and paste that back into the response to the client.
That's exactly right.
Beautiful.
And the prompt added things for because the LLMs are getting better and better, right? So the prompt added things, spaces for here's history with the client that needs to be kept in mind. Here's the client's emotional state, and if you really fill all that stuff out, it's pretty amazing what it will come back with.
I bet. So what are some of those little tips? So I never thought to put the client's emotional state into the prompt like that. It's brilliant. Like that's one of those nice. Is there any other little unlocks that you created inside of that prompt?
Inside that prompt, that was one of the biggest ones, that in history. So being able to say this client has had 17 websites with us. The last 3 have been frustrating, or the client this is the 4th request from the client along this same line. We can't actually do the thing that they want. Here's what we've told them in the past, right? Okay. With proper framing around tone and voice, the GPT will do a great job of coming back with, rather than being like, this is the 4th time it won't say anything crazy like that. Right. It just takes that information into account in generating a careful response. It is a little bit more careful when it knows more history. That was a huge unlock for us, I think. That and there's some limitations in the GPT that I had to let my team know. Like, one, it doesn't do great with negatives. It's if you've spent any time with ChatGPT, like if you ask it to create an image of a bedroom with no elephants in it, it'll give you an elephant almost every single time. It just doesn't. So being able to reframe your prompt so that it doesn't have a bunch of no's, nothings, etc., that helps. It helps a lot.
Absolutely. So you got this, you ran it out. We put it in kind of a beta internal test, right?
Right.
What sort of impact did that have once the team started playing with it?
I had several people tell me that they don't start from scratch anymore on anything. Every response that they were generating, this is from leadership down. Mm-hmm. Every response that they were generating these days, they were going to the GPT to start with, because it just saved them so much time. And it started from the right tone of voice and stance every time. And so they would always start with that.
Beautiful. So obviously we run things based on metrics. And so can you, without getting into the specific metrics, I remember looking at the time that it would take for some of those responses. After you released the GPT, what happened to that response time from the customer team?
PM response time is significantly faster, especially when it comes to, you know how it is. When you're dealing with a difficult client, you want to take more care with those responses. Mm-hmm. And so those responses take longer. And we have, the company that I was working with had the fastest response time in the multifamily industry. Hands down, bar none, fastest response time. But those problematic ones take a little bit longer. Well, they didn't take any longer after implementing these GPTs. Anecdotally, we had just implemented it. We were not tracking those times necessarily, but anecdotally, all of those responses, especially the problematic ones, were getting responded to much faster, which makes the client less problematic because you're responding fast and you're not letting them stew.
That's right. Because I seem to remember it went from like days to like half days. It just kind of roughly based on some of the anecdotal metrics that we were looking at, which again turns into happier clients, more bandwidth for the team, and again ultimately higher efficiencies, which is fantastic. So obviously you went from AI hater to AM or AI kind of tester, tinkerer to now rolling something out. How has your thinking evolved as you've built more and more of these custom GPTs, as you play with it more in different sectors? Are you solving different problems with it now than you did at first? Can you talk to me about how that thinking has evolved?
I'm starting to leverage it in more and more situations. I still love the generative nature of it as a again, removing that blank page obstacle. But I am finding it helpful in digesting information quickly. Okay. I'm a scanner. I move through copy real fast, but not as fast as ChatGPT does. So being able to upload a large legal document and say, "Hey, give me the highlights," right? That's pretty huge. I'm really looking forward to. I haven't had a chance to really do it yet, but I'm really looking forward into digging into the deep research stuff. I think that there's a huge opportunity for a marketer, especially a data-driven digital marketer, to dump all of their customer data in there and generate lifecycle information, find holes, find roadblocks that you are not aware of because the data set is so huge. And that's the biggest thing when you're a data-driven marketer, right? The data set is so huge that you almost have to have your own data analyst to do that. As a day-to-day digital marketer, I find it difficult to find the time to dig into the data the way that I want to. With ChatGPT as an assistant using the deep research, I really feel like that ceases to be an issue.
Got it. So when you say deep research, I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Obviously, inside of ChatGPT, they have different LLMs. So if you've never played with it before, there's typically V4 is what's out currently as we're recording this. But if you click the drop down, there are several other ones. There's O3, O4 mini. There's other ones that are tuned a little bit differently. So I'm assuming you're using one of those when you start doing your deep research. And then on top of that, there's actually a little flag in the search box that lets you click if you're really wanting to do deep research.
Yep.
So then when you put your prompt in, it's using a different way of thinking about all this stuff. Then it's doing the research. And as you start getting into it, it's fascinating because it starts to actually showing you what it's doing while it's doing the research. If you want to sit there and watch it. And if you're signed in on different devices, especially on your phone, I don't know if you played with this yet. If you do a deep research and you know it's going to take a while, because I've had some that take 45 minutes of research or whatever else, when you click go, it actually pushes a timer to your lock screen on your phone, if you're on iPhones, that tells you kind of the status of where it's going and stuff as it's doing this hour-long research of really digging into it. And so if you use ChatGPT for just regular, you put it in, it instantly responds. It might think for a second, but it really takes the time to do the analysis, look at it again, and to double check itself, and to do all that other stuff. And the results that come out the back end of that are absolutely fantastic. So anybody out there, if you haven't played with that yet, it is worth going and experimenting kind of with all of that. Okay, so want to roll back into the adoption side of things, right? So you're an AI hater. Obviously, you start talking about organizations. We have leadership that isn't up to speed on everything with AI. IT tends to always be a struggle. Legal sometimes gets into that. Talk to me about kind of adoption. How's your team kind of taken in this shift as you go through the different levels?
It has been a slow roll. That company in particular is and will always be very human centric. Mm-hmm. And so the big unlock for leadership there was the ability to have custom GPTs that are siloed. Okay. We have a lot of proprietary information. And before we could dump code in there, my marketing stuff, that's all public facing.
Sure.
Right? That there's nothing secret about marketing copy because that's the point of marketing copy. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to code, that's a different beast entirely. That's proprietary. That stuff has to be kept behind the curtain. So being able to have a custom GPT that you can turn off sharing, you can keep it siloed, was huge for our leadership and from our IT team. Being able to keep that secure is big. That was where we started. Now they've installed a custom box in our server closet. They're installing multiple different AIs inside that thing in order to keep it air gapped.
Right.
For security is a big concern, and it should be. It's one of the reasons that I was not on board with AI. Is the idea that it's using everybody's information to train itself. And so sometimes, especially in the early days, that information came back out, and it was terrifying from a business perspective, frankly. Being able to turn that off, essentially air gap that information is huge. So adoption was slow, and it is still a slow move for a lot of companies, I think, because your people are your best resource, and they're always going to be. And so any company that is responsible with their employees should take this slowly and be cautious in how it's going to impact your employees. Thinking of it as a tool first to make our people more effective, to help them do the thing that they're best at, was a huge unlock for leadership in particular.
Okay. So is that how you introduced it to the team, or did you have some sort of a rollout plan?
No, absolutely. That's how we introduced it. So we had a big meeting where we got all the stakeholders in place. And I started it by saying, look, here's the philosophy. We're going to assist our people and give them the tools that they need so that we can keep the company tight, keep our staff tight, keep everybody. We don't want to expand too fast because that will wreck a company culture.
Sure.
And company culture is important. So being able to use AI as a tool, not to replace, but to enable excellence was how I presented it, and that was the unlock. That's where people started realizing, okay, this isn't a threat. This is actually a tool. Just like I kept telling people, like it feels like the first time I got a smartphone. Okay. I was an early adopter of smartphones. I'm old, I guess. I had a BlackBerry, but I could vividly remember being at a trade show in New York, and us all being on the trade show floor and realizing that nobody had checked in for their flight, and me going, "It's okay, I got it," and bringing it up on my little BlackBerry and getting us all checked in from the floor, and people going, "Whoa, you can do that? You don't have to have a computer, internet connection. You could just from your phone." And that was the moment where for me, and I had already had a smartphone, obviously, but that was the moment for me where I was like, I can never go back. This is everything. This is going to change everything. I feel the same way about AI. This is not going back in the box. Once you figure out how to use it and figure out what it can do, you don't want to go back. This is the next unlock. This is exactly what it felt like when smartphones became a thing. And that's exciting to me. I mean, that's super exciting to me.
Okay. So standing in front saying this is the future, it is a tool, ensuring that we're not about to replace you with an AI bot or whatever else. And that seems to calm the staff down and allow them to actually listen and start playing with the tools.
That's exactly right. When it's very clearly not a threat, it is in fact a tool to make you better at what you want to do already. It's hard to be mad about that.
Agreed. Okay, so looking back, what do you wish you would have known or realized earlier in your AI journey?
Oh, that's a good question. I think it's mostly what we've just talked about, this idea that it's not a threat. It's not a threat. It's a tool. Just like any powerful tool, if used incorrectly, bad things are going to happen.
Sure.
If used unscrupulously, people could lose their jobs. And that's the thing that I think anybody who's trying to adopt right now needs to keep in mind. There is a responsibility. There's a human responsibility and a potential human cost if you're not careful. I have not lost that part of the AI hater side. Like I am very aware of that. And I think it is something that as business leaders, as people who are trying to push this technology into business mainstream and help companies really enable their staff with this, that's a business philosophy that has to be kept in front of mind. But once you have that locked in and it's a core part of the philosophy of how you're using I wish I had realized that sooner. I would be a lot further along on my end. There's so much to learn. There's so much to actualize inside this technology. And I feel like even at the amount that I'm doing, there's so much more to do. And I'm excited about it. I want to get it integrated with tools. I wish I had an earlier start.
Okay. Obviously, we have a lot of business leaders, we have a lot of creatives and other people who come in and watch the leaders list. What would you say to those business leaders and other marketers and other copywriters out there who still feel threatened, who are still kind of scared of this AI monster that's out there? Do you have any kind of words of wisdom for them?
Yeah, it really comes down to values. What are the values that is triggering? Because in my experience, any fear in a business sense comes down to a mismatch of values. You're worried that something is threatening the value that you hold. Maybe that's, for me, it's people. Like I really need to enable people. My whole value is like, how do I get people the tools that they need to really do their job well? That's why I don't like to market things that I don't believe in.
Sure.
Marketing matters in that it enables people. It gets the message across so that people can get the tools that they need to be great at what they want. For other people, that value system may be like bottom line, right? Is this going to impact our bottom line? Are we going to be seen as somebody who's cheap because we're using AI, and then we're going to get bailed on by our client base. I think that's a valid concern, but you need to evaluate those values and figure out the mismatches. And I think on almost every objection that I've had or heard, there is a value alignment there if the technology is used correctly and ethically. So that would be the big thing I would say to people. You're afraid of using this technology for whatever reason. Sit down and evaluate it and go, okay, it's just a technology. It's not Skynet. It's not coming for you, right? How do you use it as a tool to actually achieve the values that you want? And that alignment can not only ease your stress, which, we all need less of that, can also create the systems that you need to move to the next stage of your business.
Beautiful. So next stage, what's next for you in this AI journey? What are you looking at right now?
I really am looking forward to digging more into, like I mentioned before, the deep research stuff, getting huge data sets for customer bases and for clients, and really breaking them down and finding opportunities in customer life cycles and things like that. Where are we losing people? Where are we gaining people? Where are people struggling in their use of our products or services? That's exciting to me. And I look forward to creating more, language is my play toy anyway. So I'm looking forward to creating more language-based LLMs, some special GPTs that are designed specifically for different tones and voices, different tasks, different format responses, things like that. I mean, I was playing with one where it would go out and check client sites for spelling errors, and not just spelling errors, but like go and check it against Chicago style or AP style. And give me back all the errors so that we can go in and fix it so that our clients look better. Because I don't know, this is websites, right? But clients are not the best at writing. That's not their job.
Right.
And so when you have a model where you're just using their copy, gosh, it would sure be nice to make their copy look better. So I was training a GPT to do that, and we were talking about getting that. In fact, when I left that company, we were working on getting that integrated into our content management systems on our websites so that they could hit a button and go check me against Chicago style, right? Make sure all of my titles are title case, etc. It's cool. Awesome. It's a cool idea to be able to use that to enable not just our staff, but our clients as well.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, Chris, I appreciate your time. Obviously, walking this journey with you and kind of through the meetings from absolute AI hater through, okay, wait, let's figure this out, to seeing the success that you've had in your organizations as you've rolled it out, and really turning into as close to an AI expert as you can call people these days. It's been fun to kind of watch you go through that journey. It's been fun to be a part of it as we kind of walk through, and I appreciate your time and your wisdom. Obviously a lot of fun things to come, and definitely look forward to working with you as we continue to iterate on all of these fun AI tools that we're building to help enable our people to be better. But definitely appreciate your time. And let's go build some more AI.
Absolutely. Sounds like a good time to me. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Chris.
We'll talk to you later.